Welcome back to a brand new episode of Gen Z BTC. It's me, Satoshi Guapamoto, and today I'm here to talk to you guys about why MSTR is going much, much higher, and we're going to answer the question of how high can this thing go? Because it is completely ripping, it's destroying everything in the S&P 500, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. I'm going to put a diagram on screen, and we're going to go piece by piece of some of the strategies that Microstrategy is implementing. All right. First off, starting with MicroStrategy's reflexive flywheel effect. All right. If you look at the top, you see that MSTR issues debt to buy Bitcoin. What does this mean? Well, one of the things that they do is they issue convertible notes, or they simply raise capital, right? They do a auction when it comes to raising capital for buying Bitcoin. Either way, they're going into debt to acquire more BTC. Right? These convertible notes can be turned into shares, right? This is essentially like printing bonds. They're printing MicroStrategy bonds, right? And they're using that money to buy Bitcoin, right? Because they owe that money as a debt to all the people who bought those convertible notes. Two, Bitcoin increases and MicroStrategy's market cap increases, okay? The asset that they're saving in, the thing that they're holding their money in, goes up in value, which means that MicroStrategy's market cap goes up in value because it's directly tied to the thing that they're putting all their money in, right? MicroStrategy's market cap increases and the weight inside of indices increases. What this means is if MicroStrategy is in the S&P 500, if it's in the QQQ, if it's in the Russell 1000, if it's in an indice is made up of a bunch of different stocks, and the weight depends on the size of the stock inside of the indice. So if you're ranked 50th in a 100 stock indice and your weight, the amount of space that you take up, all the amount of value that you make up of the indice is 5%, then you're going to receive a 5% allocation to your fund, right? You're going to passively receive another 5% from all of the massive capital that's poured into that indice, right? That money is then going to lead to your stock price increasing. Then we move on to number 4. MicroStrategy issues equity to buy Bitcoin. What does this mean? That means that they're offering up shares to the market, right? They're printing shares, they're selling shares, which is then used to dilute the holdings, right? It dilutes the amount of share price because you're making more shares. But the amount that you're creating is actually accretive compared to the amount of Bitcoin that you're earning per share, right? So by printing up a certain amount of shares and then buying a certain amount of Bitcoin with those printed shares, you actually end up getting more Bitcoin per share by using this strategy. This then moves on to step number 5, which makes Bitcoin's price go up, which makes MicroStrategy's price go up, which makes the weight inside of the indices go up. Then we move on finally to number 6, where once again, MicroStrategy issues even more equity because their price keeps going up and they're getting passive flows, and Bitcoin is appreciating in value so much that they can just issue more shares in order to buy more Bitcoin, which then increases the Bitcoin per share for all of its shareholders. MicroStrategy is creating more value for its shareholders by giving people what they want. And what people want is Bitcoin. They want a beta hedge to Bitcoin. All right. Usually you want to be an alpha when it comes to the stock investment world. You want to be, quote unquote, you want to be a beta, okay? You want beta. High beta means higher yield, which means you get a higher percentage. Your money goes up faster if you have a higher beta, right? So MicroStrategy is a beta play on Bitcoin. It is a leveraged play on Bitcoin. It is a high yield play on Bitcoin. Speaking of leverage, now we're going to bring up the second diagram, all right? In this diagram, we see in step 1, MicroStrategy purchases Bitcoin. All right, we already talked about this. But then the stock becomes more volatile. Why does it become more volatile? Because Bitcoin itself is volatile because people are constantly trading it. It's highly liquid. It's the most deep and liquid market in the world, right? So not only is it highly liquid, it is also 24/7. This also plays into the fact that it's highly volatile. It is a global asset. This once again increases its volatility. We then move on to number 3. The implied volatility equals options value increasing. The way that options work is that the implied volatility, if the volatility of the stock is very high, then the premium on options is going to be really high. The price of options is going to increase a lot. All right. So then what MicroStrategy can do is step number 4, which is monetize implied volatility by selling covered calls. This is another way of issuing convertible debt. That's what I talked about in step 1 of the last strategy, right? Then number 5, high implied volatility equals low APR to borrow. All right. Because the volatility is so high, you can essentially borrow the debt for low because of the risk that is involved. Right. So people who want to get exposure to MicroStrategy without all the high volatility can take on this debt. They can basically buy these convertible notes. You're converting the volatility of MicroStrategy into a product that someone else can buy and profit off of. Certain fixed income companies, certain insurance companies, certain wealth funds can only invest into bond-like equities, into bond-like derivatives, right? These MicroStrategy derivatives offer another financial product to the people who can't hold Bitcoin as a commodity and who can't and don't want to own MicroStrategy as a stock, right? They buy this instead. They buy these convertible notes instead. They buy this debt instead. Basically, their downside risk is extremely low because regardless, the bond is going to pay them at 1 or 2% no matter what. But they also have access to the upside, at least some of the upside, right? Because the bonds could appreciate upward of 50%. The convertible notes can appreciate upward of 50% because they are tied to MicroStrategy stock. Then these people are able to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet while also acquiring very low debt. MicroStrategy is putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet while taking on very low interest debt. Okay, the interest is only 1%, 2%, right? And the common stock is now becoming a leveraged Bitcoin product because people are not only buying these convertible notes, these convertible bonds of Bitcoin, these Bitcoin-backed bonds essentially that MicroStrategy is issuing, but also the other financial products that you can use based on MicroStrategy in the financial system currently. You can short MicroStrategy, you can go 2x long MicroStrategy, you can go 3x long MicroStrategy. There are MicroStrategy futures. There are all these different financial products that once again leads to the trading volume and the volatility of the stock going up, which then makes these convertible notes even more attractive. And this loop continues on and on and on. All right. Finally, how high can MicroStrategy go? Well, considering that fiat paper dollars have no bottom, Bitcoin has no top. MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin only company. What does that mean? That means MicroStrategy has no top. Okay. Now, granted, MicroStrategy exists in the financial system. Robinhood could turn the buy button off. The United States could come confiscate all of their Bitcoin. They could arrest Michael Saylor. They could do a bunch of different stuff. But in a completely positive world, right, in a world full of copium, MicroStrategy goes to millions of dollars per share because they're buying a thing that's going to millions of dollars per unit. All right. Also, because of the leverage, because of the beta, because of the high volume and the high volatility and the huge amount of liquidity and the deepness of their options market, MicroStrategy is literally outpacing Bitcoin's growth. It's growing faster than Bitcoin because it is riskier than Bitcoin. The beta on MicroStrategy is higher than Bitcoin. What is my official price prediction for MicroStrategy going into 2025? I say the peak for MicroStrategy is somewhere in the 4 digits, easily. And I would say, let's just call it 2 bands, right? Let's just call it 2 bands, 10x from here, minimum. Dude, that's a low ball because that means that their market cap is only 300 billion. No, they're easily going to $1 trillion next year. Easily going to $1 trillion. Market final prediction, $5,000. 5 big ones, okay? 5 rackies for a single share of MicroStrategy. And today it is literally $200. Absolutely insane. It sounds crazy now. Let's see how crazy it seems in a year from now. Make sure you come back and make fun of me if I'm wrong, or say how much of a genius I am when I'm proven to be right, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I got more MicroStrategy content on the way. I have more Bitcoin content on the way. I have more financial education content on the way. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss that. Ring the bell icon so you can be some of the first people who comment on my video. Become a consistent member in the community, and I guarantee you got some really good stuff coming. You feel me? This has been Gen Z BTC, Satoshi Guapamoto out. Make sure you stack sats or die trying.